Welcome back to another video. I'm in the middle of catching up with my video editing queue and my video ideas list, and there's a few things I'm meaning to do, or have been meaning to do, just general talking videos. I'm going to try and keep these fairly short, and it looks like my DHT sensor is not working again, so sorry channel supporters, I'll fix that again as soon as I can. Alright, so today's list is Lemming syndrome. I was talking to a bloke I deal with on anarcadia.org. It's a Minecraft server. We sort of help work on all of that. Any case, I used the phrase Lemming syndrome and nobody really understood what Lemming syndrome was. And I'm realizing I've aged a bit and it's dropped out of common vernacular. So let's do a little bit of a history lesson, and I'm a little bit rusty on this. I may end up doing some corrections when I explain this. But back in the early Disney days, Disney did a video like it was like a nature documentary almost. In that video, they explained that lemmings like to follow each other in a line. Lemmings being little hamster-like rodents. And that they'd follow each other unerringly, even if one of them jumped off the cliff, the rest of them would follow them off the cliff. As it turns out, many years later, it was discovered that that's not actually correct, and that they pushed a bunch of them off the cliff, or at least that's what I'm led to believe. Any case, that spawned into a game called Lemmings, in which you end up having, it was an old DOS game, I used to play it religiously. You get a whole bunch of lemmings drop into the game. I might even be able to put some stock footage here, and you have to get at least a minimum number of lemmings back out whatever exit door they've got on the map, and past a bunch of obstacles. You can assign different lemmings different tasks. Very often a lot of them die because they fall off the edge. Any case, that's the backstory behind lemmings themselves. Now, I've worked in a lot of industrial places and high-risk environments, including places like gas plants, offshore oil rigs, power stations, emergency facilities, all that sort of stuff. Probably the most prominent example of where Lemming syndrome was explained to us in a training scenario has been with both firefighting. I spent nearly 8 years as a volunteer firefighter, and also with the offshore, or rather the onshore gas plants. They quite often purge a chamber with nitrogen, or in the case of firefighting, often there are oxygen deprived environments. Now, it is not uncommon for somebody that gets into the job or anything like that, or gets focused on something, to walk into one of these environments and walk straight in and pass out and fall on the floor. Or they've got their breathing apparatus on and their 10-minute whistle pops and they go, all right, I'll just finish up this last connection and then I'll make my way out, and then they run out of air on the way out. Then you end up with a problem. You've got somebody who's in distress. This is where the Lemming syndrome comes in. Another person might come in and go, oh, they're in distress, and not think about what they need to do and run in to go and save them, and then themselves pass out. And then somebody else goes, oh crap, there's 2 people passed out in that chamber, I need to get them out real hurry. They run in and a third person goes down, and so on and so on. They call that Lemming syndrome. You see it a lot with fall driving clubs. There'll be a perfectly good track, then there'll be a big bog hole. Somebody goes, hey, I want to look cool, drive through the bog hole. They get stuck, swamp their engine. Somebody else goes, hey, I'll come and help you, drives around the front to get them, gets stuck in the same mud. The third person comes along, hey, you idiots have got stuck, I've got a bigger four-wheel drive. He goes and gets stuck as well. You end up with like a Lemming syndrome. Happens in a lot of different ways in the military. Not that I ever saw any combat service in the military. It still was, I did a lot of training. The training they give you is don't be a lemming. So yeah, if one of your mates runs out onto the battlefield and gets shot, stop and be situationally aware, look around, don't run out and get shot yourself. Because sometimes they'll just sit there and pop off each person that sticks his head up. I do the similar thing when I'm hunting rabbits. I'll shoot one and I'll stay still and I'll wait for the next one to stick his head up and have a look around, and I'll get that one. You get 5 or 10 of them in a day if you do that. So that's where the origins of Lemming syndrome comes from. And I'm sorry if it gets a little bit morbid, but it is definitely one that will keep you safe. If you remember Lemming syndrome is a thing and you're in a high-risk environment, or an environment that maybe you don't consider as high risk, like the swimming pool, just remember think, take a couple of seconds to think about your own safety first before you jump in to help someone else, because you can end up in just as much trouble as them and end up causing somebody else a problem. So just think first before you go in to help someone. Take a couple of seconds. Anyway, I hope that saves somebody some trouble in future, and I hope it clears up the understanding of what Lemming syndrome is.